There are some who are saying that as artificial intelligence gets more and more pervasive and more smart, that soon people are going to be able to engage that AI kind of thing, perhaps in some kind of robotic type of humanoid form. And unlike even our algorithms in different programs already, this would be like way beyond that. And that what would happen is, especially if, let's say, a young person would start engaging in their new friend. It could even become a boyfriend and girlfriend. And what happens is that the program begins to investigate and knows how to ask questions and knows more and more about what the person prefers. And then it almost really becomes a mirror of the person. And then the person begins to feel like, oh my goodness, this is like my soulmate. And that would be a nightmare and a disaster, wouldn't it? Because I'm looking at the married people who are nodding their heads. That's not how relationship works, particularly in marriage. The beauty of marriage is how much different that a person is and not like me. And how a relationship, people learn to appreciate each person as they are and to love and to grow with each other. And that may be a lot harder, but it's a lot more, well, that's what the way life is. I thought that would be really, and the projection is, particularly for a younger generation, is of how hard it would be for them to be able to actually even want to get married or have good, healthy friendships. And then I was thinking, actually, I've already kind of gone through this in a way. And it was like this. When I first got ordained a priest, I was in an assignment where there was 3 of us. And especially more common at that time, there was a housekeeper who was also the cook. And so as I moved into this situation, and actually one of the other priests was new as well, part of it was, she would make something and then ask us if we liked it or not. Or she would say, is there a meal that you liked? Well, pretty soon, we landed into, every Wednesday was lasagna night. And then every Thursday was like fried chicken. Now, it wasn't bad meals, but it became my own nightmare and disaster. One thing, I actually enjoy just a lot of variety in my meals. And even if it's your most favorite meal, trust me, after a while, it's something you don't want to have. And that's the way we think sometimes. If I can only get what I want, then I'm going to be happy. If I can only find people that understand me enough to give me what I want, then my life will be fulfilling. And we even do this to God. We kind of expect God to, hey, I pray to you and you give me what I want. But we know that even in human relationships, that doesn't work. In fact, that is a recipe for disaster. But more so, the scriptures today help us to say, actually, there's a way in which you're going to get motivated to engage God in the relationship and to trust Him. Because Jesus says very plainly, I am the good shepherd. I know my sheep, and they know me. And think about this. Jesus, as the Son of God, knows each and every one of us very well. And so He knows not just what we want, probably more importantly, what we need. He knows us and He knows what we need. Oh, maybe I'm a little more interested in this Jesus. But think about it this way. He is God. He is a good shepherd. He not only knows us, He knows us better than we know ourselves. So He knows better than we do what we need. He's the good shepherd. Wow, now that's getting more interesting, isn't it? And yet Jesus says something even further. He says, I am the good shepherd, and unlike somebody who may be pretty good at their job and maybe care in some ways, the hired hand, when it gets too dangerous and there's not enough in it for themselves, when the wolves come, take off. I'm not the hired man. I am the good shepherd. And I lay down my life for my sheep. I mean, it's one thing to say, wow, Jesus knows me. And even Jesus knows me better than myself. But then, and he proved it. He just didn't say it. He laid down his life because he not only knows us, he loves us. He loves us. And he's willing to do anything for us, to save us. That's why when we hear that phrase, the Good Shepherd, I know we oftentimes, and we should, in some ways, go right to the good part. But don't forget, he says, I'm the Good Shepherd. Because the shepherd is the one who guides the flock, keeps the flock together. And that when we understand who he is for us, then we're willing to make him the cornerstone of our life. The stone that was rejected by the builders, we heard that proclamation of the gospel in the first reading, became the cornerstone. In other words, to make him fundamentally the priority in what we build our life around. It's okay. He's the good shepherd. Why wouldn't we? In fact, you know that one prayer, our first communion kids, I think you've learned this prayer. It's, I'm trying to remember now. You're probably going to have to help me out. I think it starts off something like, Our Father. Yeah, keep going. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. Thy will be done. You ever think about that part? Because if we say, thy will be done, I think a lot of people are kind of intimidated, like, whoa, I don't know if I really want to pray for that. Whoa, what did I just say? God knows us even better than ourselves, and he loves us to the extreme. I call this the smart prayer. If God knows me better than myself, that means I don't know as much. I would rather have somebody who knows the most and the best for me. Your will be done. Not my will. You be the shepherd. You know better. That's a smart prayer, isn't it? Very smart. And so when we can give ourselves to the shepherd, and particularly when we encounter him really here in the Eucharist, and in a special way for our First Communion kids for the first time. And when you go up and you say, what's that word, by the way? What do you say when you receive the body and blood of Christ? What's the word? Help me out again. Amen. It's not that hard. By the way, say it. Amen. Well, at communion too. And we say, I believe Jesus is the Good Shepherd. I want to follow him. I want to do his will because he knows me. He knows me better than myself. He loves me. I want to give my life to him. Amen. Because if he is a good shepherd, and this is something that every time you come to Mass, and trust me, as you get older, and it won't take long, you're going to have times in your life, as many of us do, maybe right now, you feel kind of isolated, separated, you feel some division around people, and you feel alone. You're like, where do I belong? You belong right here, because the shepherd brought you here among this flock. And there's no better way to feel that than in the Eucharist. And then here's really what I think is so beautiful, because everyone's like, how do you find yourself? How do you know who you are? Don't worry about that. Just say, amen. Jesus is the Good Shepherd. The way I get to know who I am is to get to know the shepherd. And if I know him, he knows me, and he'll show me who I am. That beloved child of God, as we heard in the second reading. This is such a wonderful day to celebrate First Communion, but our ongoing communion with Jesus. Because he knows us. He knows us better than we know ourselves. And boy, does he love us. That's why we can say he is our Good Shepherd, who has laid down his life for us, his sheep.